Hey everybody, I'm JC from One Shot Adventures, and get ready to plunge into the Dark Ages because we're going back in time to 15th century Germany in the medieval horror adventure Lands of the Dark Witch. Lands of the Dark Witch is a free role-playing adventure designed for 3 to 5 players. It can probably be completed in 1 or 2 sessions. It blends exploration, role-playing, and dangerous medieval combat fairly equally. If you like your fantasy gritty and filled with weird, authentic folklore, you'll probably like this adventure. There are versions available for GURPS, Call of Cthulhu Dark Ages, and Dungeons & Dragons, so take your pick. It also comes with pre-generated characters and handouts, so GMs can run this adventure for their friends without a ton of prep work. There are spoilers ahead, so if you're thinking about playing in this adventure, go back to your village and go tell your game master to check this video out instead. It is the early 15th century, and Germany is just beginning to emerge from the Dark Ages. This is still the age where folklore and superstition trumped reason. The night was feared, people trembled at the thought of witches and spirits living in their woods, and magic was thought to be the devil's work. God and his saints were the only real things that could protect you from that level of darkness. If you're familiar with Brothers Grimm and Schoenworth, a lot from this era will sound familiar. Personally, I think this is such a great untapped era for role-playing, especially if you need a break from traditional high fantasy or familiar tropes like elves, orcs, and wizards. Lands of the Dark Witch plays out like a road trip. It starts in a small town and pushes the players along towards a final confrontation with a vengeful witch. While there's opportunities for side quests, it's a fairly linear adventure, which means new GMs should be able to run this one pretty easily. It's a pretty deadly adventure though, since the PCs are up against foes who have supernatural powers, and they really don't have any magic of their own. If your players are used to being on equal footing with their opponents, you may want to warn them that this won't always be the case in this adventure.
What do you expect? It's medieval Germany. We outlawed challenge ratings in 1359.
Of course, you masochistic Call of Cthulhu players are already used to this setup. The adventure begins in the small town of Würzburg. The PCs are all recent arrivals. They have various reasons for being there. If you're using the pre-generated characters, some are soldiers returning back from war, others are middle-class merchants, and some others are traveling clergy. It doesn't really matter because the adventure pulls them all together with a single disastrous event. It's midnight, and the young burgomaster's manor is on fire. A burgomaster is like the lord of the town. A servant screams for help. "Burgomaster Jacob's trapped inside. He'll burn to death unless we rescue him." As the PCs rush into the manor to save the burgomaster, they're shocked to see that he's been murdered by one of his own servants. She leans over his body. Her eyes are black. Her teeth are like broken glass. She's undoubtedly a witch, and she laughs maniacally as she attacks the PCs. Once the PCs defeat the servant-turned-witch and escape the burning house, the burgomaster's lieutenant, a cruel knight named Wilhelm Giebelstadt, rides over with his men. He's furious because young burgomaster Jacob was the bishop's illegitimate son, and the bishop is going to be horrified that his son died, murdered by a witch. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a quick history lesson. I promise it's fast. Medieval Germany had a unique feudal system because the emperor gave half the land in the country to bishops to rule. This was actually a really clever idea because bishops couldn't pass down their land to their sons, so there was less of a chance for power grabs and infighting. Of course, medieval bishops weren't exactly the most holy of people, so they did end up giving some titles to their relatives anyway, and they generally were pretty bad at ruling kingdoms, but it still mostly worked. The important thing here is that when the PCs hear that the bishop's son is dead, that's bad for the entire kingdom, and he is not likely going to be in a forgiving mood. So Giebelstadt does what you'd expect any uppity high-status knight to do. He orders the PCs to take the body of Burgomaster Jacob to the bishop so he can be buried, and while they're at it, please explain what happened with the whole witch thing.
I could take the body to the bishop tonight myself, but I have many knightly things to do, like scabbards and swords and horses. What do I have to do tonight? See, so much, I can't go. You have to go. You go.
The bishop's currently out of town. He's living about 10 miles away in the town of Bergtheim, overseeing a construction of a new cathedral. So Giebelstadt gives the PCs a wagon and tells them to hurry up and go tell the bishop. It's kind of like a horrifying version of Weekend at Bernie's. So the road trip's begun. Being medieval Germany, the roads are, of course, highly dangerous. The adventure gives GMs 1 or 2 optional events that the PCs can encounter on the way to the first stop, the village of GURPS. There's an encounter with bandits for players who like to fight things, and there's another one where the PCs get creepy visions as they travel. You can pick either of them or none of them. They're really not critical to the adventure. As the PCs near the village, however, they see a strange sight in the woods. A man watches them, his body blackened and covered in burning cloth strips. This is the Fiery Man, a creature from German folklore who was said to lead people home in exchange for a few coins. He invites the PCs to follow him into the woods, and if they do so, they find an old hovel where the Fiery Man lives. The Fiery Man admits the PCs to his home once they drop a few coins into a bucket outside the door. Once inside, the Fiery Man serves them some good ale and tells them that Burgomaster Jacob was actually struck down by a powerful witch. Not the woman that they saw attacking him, but someone more powerful and insidious who has many spies and servants throughout the land. The Fiery Man also tells the PCs that one of the bishop's own men is working for the witch, and they will know him by an hourglass scar upon his arm. Okay, I just have to stop here and say, isn't German folklore wonderful? It's so weird that there's these burning men in the forest that just want to serve you good beer and help you for a few coins. When my players encountered the fireman, they were so baffled by this situation, they didn't even know how to handle it. It's super fun stuff. Soon after the PCs depart the Fiery Man, they'll reach the village of GURPS, which is about halfway to the bishop. The villagers there are a suspicious and downtrodden lot, and they're quick to tell the PCs that they really hate the bishop. They also never really liked his son Jacob, who they found to be a terrible and useless ruler. The bishop, though, is especially hated because he recently executed many of their families after a recent revolt. At this point in history, there were a lot of revolts and a lot of people getting executed for choosing the wrong side. But with some good role-playing, the PCs can eventually convince the villagers to give them shelter and some supplies. But these villagers meant it when they said they really didn't like the bishop. So they try to steal the body of Burgomaster Jacob. These guys really don't want to see Jacob buried all nicely, so they grab his body and try to dump it somewhere nobody will find. There's a fun optional side quest GMs can decide to use here. If you're short on time, you can simply let the PCs catch up with the villagers, beat them on the head a little bit, and recover the body without too much trouble. Or there's a whole subplot about a ruined castle nearby where a devil-worshipping son of a count, Black Toby, lives with his sorceress girlfriend, Osterhildis. The villagers figure, hey, this Black Toby guy loves Satan, so surely he'll want to do something evil with this body of a guy we don't like. Let's give it to him. So now the PCs need to venture to this old ruined castle and steal the body back. My players always had a lot of fun with this subplot. Black Toby is kind of like this aggro rock star personality who just wants to hang out with his thug friends and his nutty girlfriend, and he'll wreck the PCs if he finds them snooping around his castle. They also have a devil goat that just loves to ram people out of windows in their tower. You can't say that's not fun. Hey look, it's an ugly goat! Anyway, if your players are having fun and you want to extend this adventure, send them to go meet Black Toby and Osterhildis. At this point, the PCs are probably like, WTF, medieval Germany sucks. There's witches everywhere, there's weird burning men in the forest, and we're the messengers bringing the worst news in the kingdom to the bishop, who's a total jerk and has a reputation for executing peasants. But this journey is almost at its end. The PCs finally arrive in Bergtheim, which is where the bishop's living. Bishop Gerhard is this ancient fellow, almost 90 years old, but still sharp of mind. He's surrounded by 3 loyal advisors, a priest, a bodyguard, and a dim but hardworking footman. When the bishop hears that his son has been killed, he's deeply traumatized and falls into a catatonic state, fearing that this witch is coming for his soul next. At this point, the PCs likely remember that one of the bishop's 3 advisors is working for the witch. They'll have to figure out which one it is and which one has that hourglass-shaped scar on his arm that the Fiery Man mentioned. This part plays out like an open-ended investigation. The PCs can come up with some clever plan, they can try to trick the men, they can search the men's room for clues, or they can try some simple Law and Order style interrogation. Either way, the traitor is the bishop's bodyguard, Vic of Volksmanhagen. Vic soon figures out that the time is right, and he tries to kidnap the bishop and take him into the woods to be sacrificed by the witch. You see, the witch, being an evil sort, wanted the bishop to see that his son was dead before she killed him. If the PCs stop the kidnapping here, the bishop commands them to go find and kill the witch. Otherwise, they'll have to track Vic into the woods to find out where he's taking the bishop. The witch lives deep in the forest, on the edge of a block mountain, a forested hill ringed with old stones. In German folklore, these locations were often thought to be the site of dark rituals. And the PCs will not be disappointed because the bishop is there in the block mountain, about to be sacrificed by Adelie, the powerful witch that's behind everything in the adventure so far. Years ago, when the bishop ordered her village destroyed due to their failed revolt, she fled into these woods. She hated the bishop and swore vengeance, eventually selling her soul for the dark magic that she needed to kill him. While she has a sympathetic background, she's beyond saving. She really just wants to destroy the bishop and his entire world. So now the PCs have a fight on their hands. The witch's lover, Vic of Volksmanhagen, is a skilled swordsman. Adelie has a few mild supernatural powers that you'd expect of a witch. She can summon windstorms and strike men blind. But once the bishop's been sacrificed, Adelie gains the ability to turn men's hearts into literal stone. Finally, there's an actual devil hanging around the block mountain, Gamigan, a demon princess who possesses near omniscience. Gamigan's amused by this whole confrontation and acts as sort of a wild card. Her omniscience can help Adelie the witch, but she'll soon grow bored if she sees that the fight's starting to turn against the witch. In a grimdark medieval game, I think it's okay if the PCs put up a good fight, but darkness overwhelms them in the end. So this battle really requires coordination to win. As a game master, use your chess pieces wisely here to create a fun, challenging, and textured fight. These are all highly intelligent foes. Adelie knows that she can't go toe-to-toe with a soldier, so she's going to send her boyfriend to distract her opponents so that she can kill the bishop and gain the power that she needs to instantly kill one of the PCs. Similarly, her ally Gamigan is literally omniscient, so GMs can have fun here, ruining the PC's best plans and feeding their tactics right into Adelie. Make the players work for this win. The end should be bloody and hard-won. One of the themes of this adventure is that there's no help where you would normally expect it. The Knight Giebelstadt is no help, the destitute villagers are no help, and the bishop's not really very helpful. The only useful ally in this adventure is that weird fiery man who for some unknown motive wants to see the witch removed. The lack of help, combined with the fact that the PCs are often outmatched by their opponents, gives this entire adventure a real sense of paranoia. As a game master, you may want to double down on this in the way you describe the setting and the characters to make the players feel like they're really on their own in this one. Lands of the Dark Witche includes lots of other elements to help game masters run this adventure without a lot of preparation. There's not only pre-generated characters, but there's also digital handouts and battle maps. And for you GURPS players out there, all the adventure's characters are in GCA format, so you can easily import them in a Foundry or other VTT tools you like. Well, that's the overview of Lands of the Dark Witche. If you're looking for an adventure that takes a trip into a grim world filled with folklore, witches, and haunted forests, take a look at this adventure. You can download it for free at oneshotadventures.com. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. Oh, and if you have any favorite medieval Dark Ages adventures, I'd love to know about them. Post some of your favorites in the comments below. Until next time, I'm JC, and I'll see you soon.
Yes, I could take the body to the bishop, but I have to polish my scabbard tonight. I am very busy tonight with nightly stuff tonight, but I have Lady Gaga tickets. But I have to eat roast something. But I have a peasant to execute. But I have many things to do, like I have I don't even know. What do I have?